The Scottish Highlands never truly grew dark in summer, but tonight was different. Sergeant Major Michael Stone watched the strange lights pierce the storm clouds, their ethereal glow turning the rain silver. 20 years in the Special Air Service had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, every battle-hardened nerve in his body was singing. "Control, this is Stone," he whispered into his radio, knowing the transmission would never reach headquarters. The moment those lights appeared, all communications had died. Even his tactical pad was dark. Time to do this old school then. From his position in the heather, Stone observed the massive ships descending through the clouds. Their hulls shed water like cathedral spires, beautiful in a way that made his combat-trained mind immediately search for structural weaknesses. The vessels moved with precision that spoke of advanced technology, but their formation was predictable. Arrogant, even. No rear guard, no screening elements, no counter-surveillance measures that he could detect. "Bloody amateurs," Stone muttered, his Yorkshire accent thick with disapproval. While the world would soon panic at humanity's first contact with alien life, all he saw were the same mistakes he'd witnessed countless times in counter-terrorism operations. Overconfidence, predictable patterns, the belief that superior technology negated the need for basic security protocols. The rain intensified, drumming against his Gore-Tex jacket. Stone remained motionless, employing the breathing techniques that had kept him hidden from thermal imaging during operations in theaters he'd never officially visited. The nearest ship touched down less than 2 kilometers from his position, its landing lights carving bright columns through the deluge. Stone's mind cataloged everything. The ship's port side had fewer sensor arrays. Their patrol patterns left a 3-second gap in coverage every time their formation banked right. Most importantly, their ground troops moved like soldiers who'd never faced real resistance. A metallic iris dilated in the ship's hull, and Stone got his first look at humanity's visitors. They were tall, their armor gleaming with technologies he couldn't begin to comprehend. But they moved wrong. Each step was perfectly measured, every movement calculated. They had the look of soldiers who relied too heavily on combat computers and automated targeting systems. Stone allowed himself a grim smile. They might have crossed light years to reach Earth, but they'd forgotten the oldest lesson in warfare. Technology is no substitute for experience. The aliens deployed in textbook fashion, if the textbook was written by someone who'd never faced an enemy that could actually fight back. Their perimeter was precise but inflexible. Their sensors swept in predictable patterns. They were clearing the area like they expected to find primitive primates cowering in the brush. They didn't clear the drainage culvert that Stone had noted earlier, didn't check the false ridge created by the old quarry's edge, made no attempt to secure the high ground that dominated their landing zone. Right then, Stone whispered to himself, carefully beginning his withdrawal. Let's see how the galaxy's finest handle a bit of the old regiment's hospitality. He moved through the darkness like a ghost, each step calculated, his breathing controlled. The SAS had trained him to be invisible long before these beings arrived with their advanced sensors. 20 years of combat experience had taught him that every enemy, no matter how advanced, had weaknesses. It was just a matter of finding them. As he crested the ridge overlooking the alien landing zone, Stone couldn't help but feel a familiar surge of anticipation. The same feeling he'd had before every operation that changed the world, though none quite so literally as this one would. Let them think Earth was primitive. Let them believe their technology made them invincible. Stone had spent his entire career proving that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't our tools or our strength, but our capacity to adapt and overcome. The storm intensified, thunder rolling across the highlands like artillery fire. By the time it cleared, these visitors would learn what every adversary of the Special Air Service eventually discovered. Who dares, wins. And Michael Stone dared quite a bit. The alien bioscanner swept past Stone's position for the third time, its purple beam cutting through the pre-dawn mist. He remained motionless in his shallow depression, breath controlled, heart rate steady. The device chirped, registering every rabbit, fox, and deer within a kilometer radius. But not him. Stone allowed himself a small smile. The techniques developed to fool human thermal imaging worked even better against alien technology. His regiment had spent decades perfecting the art of becoming invisible to machines. Slow breathing, regulated body temperature, and a ghillie suit enhanced with experimental thermal dispersing materials. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways. Through his scope, he watched the alien patrol pass beneath his position. Their movements were precise, almost robotic. Each step measured exactly the same distance, their weapons held at identical angles. It was the kind of precision that looked impressive on a parade ground, but got you killed in real combat. "You're reading the manual," Stone whispered to himself, not the terrain. The aliens' overconfidence was evident in every aspect of their operation. Their command center, a crystalline structure that had erupted from their main ship, was positioned for convenience rather than defensibility. Their sensors were sophisticated but predictable in their sweep patterns. Most telling of all, they'd established their base without once checking the extensive network of caves that honeycombed the highlands. Stone's radio crackled to life, the first signal he'd received in hours. "All units, this is COBRA. First contact protocols are in effect. Do not engage alien forces. Repeat, do not engage. Stand by for further instructions." In London, politicians would be scrambling to formulate a response. In Washington, generals would be calculating odds. But Stone had seen the aliens' tactical displays through his scope. They were already dividing Earth into occupation zones. The time for diplomacy had passed before it began. Stone checked his equipment one final time. Standard issue SA-80 rifle, though he doubted it would be much use against their armor. More important were his other tools: det cord, radio jammers, and the contents of his kit bag that would make the aliens regret establishing their base near an SAS training ground. "Time to introduce myself," he muttered. Moving like liquid shadow, Stone approached the base's perimeter. The alien security systems were impressive if you were trying to detect conventional threats, but they were calibrated for their technology, not Earth's. Their energy barriers ignored the simple metal wire cutters in Stone's hand. Their motion sensors tracked powered movement, not the slow crawl of a patient predator. The first charge went exactly where Stone knew it would hurt most: their communications array. Small enough to look like mechanical failure, powerful enough to disable their primary transmitter. The second went near their sensor grid's power supply. Not on it, near it. Let them think the damage was accidental. Stone was already gone when the first explosion lit up the pre-dawn sky. The aliens responded exactly as he predicted, deploying forces to investigate, leaving other sectors undermanned. Their tactical doctrine was thousands of years old, and it showed. Through his scope, Stone watched their commander gesturing furiously at subordinates. Even through their environmental suits, the aliens' frustration was evident. Their sensors showed no enemies, yet their equipment was failing. Their perimeter registered no breaches, yet their security was compromised. They had no frame of reference for this type of warfare. Their technology had made them forget the fundamental truth that Stone's regiment lived by. The most dangerous enemy is the one you cannot see. As the aliens' command staff huddled around their malfunctioning equipment, Stone was already planning his next move. 20 years of combat experience had taught him that winning wasn't about having better weapons. It was about making your enemy question everything they thought they knew. "Welcome to Earth," Stone whispered, disappearing into the highland mists. Lesson 1. Technology breaks. Training doesn't. Behind him, more alarms began to sound in the alien base. By the time they figured out what was happening, they would learn another lesson. Sometimes the deadliest predator isn't the one with the sharpest claws, but the one with the patience to wait and the wisdom to strike where it hurts most. The hunt had begun. The alien commander's personal guard vanished exactly 3 minutes after midnight. No alarms, no signs of struggle. One moment they were patrolling the eastern perimeter, the next, gone. Stone watched through his scope as chaos erupted across the base. Lesson 2, he whispered, fear works better than force. The missing patrol would be found at dawn, suspended in a web of paracord and climbing rope between two ancient oaks, unharmed but thoroughly humiliated. Their advanced armor, useless against simple knots and basic physics, had become a prismatic cocoon. Stone allowed himself a tight smile as he made the final adjustments to his latest gift, a primitive tripwire connected to nothing more dangerous than a bucket of Highland stream water. The aliens' reactions to his psychological warfare campaign had proven more valuable than any intelligence briefing. They were rattled, not by the pranks themselves, but by their inability to detect or prevent them. Base actual, southern quadrant clear. An alien voice crackled over their comm channel. Stone had cracked their basic encryption 2 days ago. Another sign of their complacency. They hadn't changed protocols since landing. The alien commander's response was immediate. Maintain alert status. The primitives' tactics make no sense. There must be a pattern we're missing. Stone checked his watch. Right on schedule. The bucket tipped, dousing the next patrol in ice-cold water. Primitive. Yes. Effective. Absolutely. The alien sensors immediately went haywire, their environmental suits initiating emergency protocols for what they interpreted as a chemical attack. While their forces scrambled to respond to the non-existent threat, Stone was already moving. His real target wasn't their equipment or their pride. It was their certainty. Every warrior culture had its breaking point. For some, it was fear. For others, humiliation. For these aliens, it was doubt. He reached the command center's blind spot, a gap in their sensor coverage he'd identified days ago. In his pack was a simple solar-powered tablet containing footage of every successful strike he'd executed against their superior forces. One press of a button would broadcast it across their own communication networks. The aliens had forgotten something crucial about warfare. Sometimes the deadliest weapon isn't the one that kills you, but the one that makes others question whether they can win. Let's see how your troops handle this, Stone muttered, initiating the broadcast. The reaction was immediate. Screens across the base lit up with images of Earth's supposedly primitive defenders systematically dismantling the galaxy's finest. Every failed patrol, every sprung trap, every moment of confusion played in high definition. But it was the final image that would haunt them. Their elite guards, hanging helpless in primitive rope traps, defeated not by advanced weapons, but by knots that Boy Scouts learned. Stone's voice, digitally altered to sound like it came from everywhere and nowhere, echoed through their command network. You've been hunting us. Did you ever stop to think that we might be hunting you? The alien commander's roar of fury carried across the compound. Find him. Use everything we have. But Stone was already gone, leaving behind only a single piece of paper with the SAS regiment's winged dagger insignia. Let them waste resources analyzing it for hidden technology. The message was in what the paper represented. Even in an age of digital warfare, some things remained stubbornly, effectively analog. From his new position in the hills, Stone watched the alien base erupt into frenzied activity. Search parties deployed in ever-widening circles, sensors recalibrated, weapons charged. All of it useless against an enemy who understood that true strength lay not in technology, but in the ability to adapt and overcome. He keyed his radio, broadcasting on an open frequency he knew the aliens monitored. Who dares wins. The signal would be untraceable, but its effect was immediate. The alien patrols moved faster, less precisely. Their formation showed gaps. Their confidence was cracking. Stone packed his gear, preparing to disappear into the highlands once more. The next phase would require more than just tactical brilliance. It would demand that he teach the galaxy's most advanced military force a lesson they'd forgotten millennia ago. Sometimes the most dangerous predator isn't the one with the sharpest claws, but the one with the patience to make its prey defeat itself. The cybernetic shock troops arrived at midnight, their enhanced bodies gleaming with technology that made their predecessors look primitive. Stone watched them deploy through his scope, noting how their movements betrayed their augmented nature. Too smooth, too calculated, too perfect. "Pride comes before a fall," he whispered, recalling his instructor's words from selection. Back then, it had been about overconfident recruits. Now it applied to humanity's would-be conquerors. Their commander, a towering figure wrapped in crystalline armor, broadcasted on all frequencies. "Primitive, you have impressed us. But the game's end now. These are the Dominion's finest warriors. They do not sleep. They do not tire. They cannot be deceived." Stone's response was to trigger the first trap. The ancient smuggler's cave, carefully weakened over 3 days, collapsed beneath the alien patrol's perfect formation. Their enhanced reflexes meant nothing against simple gravity. 6 of the galaxy's finest warriors, now trapped 20 meters underground in a maze Stone knew by heart. "Cannot be deceived, eh?" Stone muttered, already moving to his next position. The Highlands' network of caves and tunnels, mapped by centuries of smugglers, rebels, and special forces, was about to become their worst nightmare. The alien commander's fury manifested in a barrage that transformed the countryside. Advanced energy weapons carved glowing trenches in the earth. Sensor probes illuminated every shadow. They were done playing games. Except Stone wasn't playing. He triggered his next surprise. Electromagnetic pulses from modified field equipment, carefully placed near their sensor nodes. The aliens' cybernetic troops suddenly found their enhanced senses overwhelmed, their targeting systems flooding with ghost signals. "Base command, we're getting multiple contacts." One patrol reported, their perfect precision cracking. "Cannot confirm." Signals appearing and disappearing. Stone had spent days studying their patterns, noting how their cybernetic troops relied on integrated combat systems. Take those away, and all their enhancement meant nothing against basic soldier skills they'd forgotten centuries ago. He keyed his radio. Lesson 3. Technology is a tool, not a crutch. The alien commander's response was predictable. Deploy more forces, increase sensor coverage, tighten the net. But Stone had already shifted to primitive signals their advanced systems ignored. Chalk marks on rocks. Broken twigs. The old ways that had guided soldiers for millennia. The next group of cybernetic troops found themselves caught in a ravine's natural bottleneck, their perfect formations meaningless in terrain that favored the defender. Stone's carefully placed charges brought down tons of loose scree, not to kill but to trap and frustrate. Multiple units immobilized, came the frustrated report. Cannot establish targeting solutions through debris cloud. Stone was already moving, using routes that generations of Highland warriors had walked. The aliens' tactical displays showed neat circles of control, unaware that the space between those circles held paths known only to those who'd learned to read the land itself. Base command, we've lost contact with Strike Team 3. Strike Team 5 reporting system malfunctions. Strike Team 2 requesting immediate extraction. The alien commander's voice cut through the chatter. Impossible. These are prehistoric tactics. Our warriors are enhanced beyond such primitive concerns. Stone's reply was to trigger his masterpiece, a cascade of small charges that created a symphony of confusion. Each explosion triggered sensor ghosts. Each echo spawned false readings. The cybernetic warrior's enhanced senses became a liability, overwhelmed by the chaos. From his vantage point, Stone watched the galaxy's finest warriors reduced to stumbling figures, their perfect coordination shattered by sensory overload and terrain they'd dismissed as primitive. "You enhanced everything except your common sense," Stone muttered, preparing his final message of the night. He'd adapted civilian broadcasting equipment to penetrate their frequencies. "Your technology makes you strong, but it also makes you predictable. Tomorrow, we'll see what your enhanced warriors do when they can't trust their own systems." The alien commander's response was lost in a fresh wave of confusion as more sensor ghosts appeared on their grid. They would spend the night chasing shadows, jumping at echoes, their perfect cybernetic systems detecting threats in every shadow. Stone shouldered his pack, already planning tomorrow's lessons. The aliens were about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology. It was our ability to adapt when technology failed. In the war between machinery and experience, experience was about to score another victory. Passing the torch, a Navy SEAL chief asked over the encrypted line. Even through the static, Stone could hear the American's grin. Your ghost stories got the whole galaxy jumping at shadows. Stone watched alien patrols sweep the valley below, their formerly pristine formations now ragged with paranoia. Not passing, Chief. Sharing. Your turn to show them what humans can do. The transmission ended as Stone's modified tablet displayed feeds from across the globe. In the Philippine Sea, SEAL teams were turning coral reefs into underwater mazes that confounded alien sonar. Through Siberian forests, Spetsnaz operators moved like shadows, employing tactics perfected over centuries of warfare. Welsh mountains echoed with the confusion of alien patrols as SBS commandos turned the terrain into a nightmare labyrinth. The ghost warrior spreads, an alien commander's frustrated voice crackled over their tactical network. Every sector reports similar tactics. Impossible for one primitive to be everywhere. Stone allowed himself a rare chuckle. They still didn't understand. He wasn't everywhere. He'd simply shown others what was possible. Human special forces were doing what they did best, adapting and improving on successful tactics. His tablet chirped with an incoming message from a French GSE operator. "The aliens in our sector, they now fear the dark. Your methods, they work magnifique." One by one, Earth's elite warriors were proving that humanity's perceived weaknesses were actually strengths, unable to match alien technology. Fine. They'd use that technology against itself. Physically weaker. Perfect. It made them harder to detect, more agile in confined spaces. Stone's own success had started a wildfire of resistance. Every Special Forces unit was adding their own flourishes to his basic template. The SEALs had adapted his sensor costing techniques for underwater operations. Spetsnaz units were using modified versions of his traps in Arctic conditions. Even the SAS's sister unit, the SBS, had developed maritime variants of his psychological warfare tactics. Multiple units report system failures. An alien transmission cut through his thoughts. Unknown if mechanical or other causes. The hesitation in that voice was telling. Stone had planted the seeds of doubt, and now they were blooming worldwide. Every unexplained noise, every equipment failure, every shadow could be hiding one of Earth's ghost warriors. His tablet displayed a new message, this time from a Gurkha commander in Nepal. "The aliens fear the mountains now. They remember your lessons well." Stone switched frequencies, monitoring alien chatter. Their troops were showing classic signs of combat stress. Jumping at shadows, questioning sensor readings, hesitating before entering confined spaces. The galaxy's finest warriors were learning that technology meant nothing when you couldn't trust your own senses. "Command, we've lost contact with Sector 7. An alien voice reported, strain evident even through translation. "Request permission to withdraw to defensible position." "Denied," came the response. "We cannot be defeated by primitive psychological tactics." But they were being defeated, not by superior firepower or advanced technology, but by humanity's greatest weapon, our infinite capacity to adapt and improvise. Stone's tablet filled with more reports. Australian SAS turning the outback into an alien killing ground. GTF-2 operators making Canadian forests come alive with ghost signals. Korean UDT/SEALs transforming coastal waters into technological black holes. "The beauty of it," Stone muttered, preparing his next series of sensor ghosts, "is that we're not even fighting their strengths. We're just making them fight themselves." A new transmission caught his attention. Alien High Command demanding situation reports from all sectors. The responses painted a picture of global chaos. Every corner of Earth had become hostile territory. Every shadow potentially concealed a ghost warrior applying Stone's tactics with local flavor. His tablet chimed one final time. A simple message from a German KSK operator. They expected an army. We gave them ghosts. Stone packed his gear, ready to launch the next phase of his campaign. The aliens had arrived expecting to find primitive warriors. Instead, they'd found something far more dangerous. Humans who had turned their technological disadvantage into a weapon. As night fell over the Scottish Highlands, Stone allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The galaxy's greatest military power was learning a lesson that Earth's elite warriors had known for centuries. True strength isn't in the weapons you carry, but in the fear you inspire. And fear was going viral. The Highland landscape burned. Alien weaponry had transformed the ancient hills into smoking craters, their desperation evident in every scorched acre. Stone observed the destruction from within a maintenance duct on their own command ship, his expression grim. The aliens had finally broken, exactly as he planned. Burn everything. The alien commander's voice echoed through the ship's internal communications. These primitives must be hiding somewhere. Stone checked his Modify tablet. The ship's environmental systems showed him as nothing more than a minor temperature variance, a trick learned from SAS operations in the Persian Gulf, now proving invaluable in alien ventilation shafts. Sir, an alien technician's voice wavered. We're detecting anomalies throughout the ship's systems. Of course they were. Stone had spent the last hour placing small electromagnetic disruptors throughout their vessel. Nothing dangerous, just enough to make their technology hiccup at random intervals. The psychological impact of unreliable equipment was often more devastating than actual damage. Impossible, the commander roared. No primitive could infiltrate this vessel. Run another diagnostic. Stone allowed himself a thin smile. They still didn't understand. Humans hadn't survived millennia by being the strongest. We'd survived by being the most adaptable. Their ship's access ways might have been designed for maintenance drones, but to someone who'd crawled through Tora Bora's caves, they were practically highways. All sections, report. The commander's voice carried an edge of panic now. Why are secondary systems failing? Because Stone had studied their patterns. Their technology was impressive, but their thinking was linear. They protected against forced entry, but ignored the paths meant for maintenance. They guarded against weapons but ignored the possibility of someone turning their own systems against them. His tablet chirped. A message from a Korean UDT/SEAL team. Enemy vessels worldwide showing similar vulnerabilities. Your infiltration tactics are being implemented globally. Stone began the next phase. One by one, sections of the ship began experiencing malfunctions. Life support would flicker in one area. Gravity would fluctuate in another. Nothing dangerous, just enough to keep them off balance. Multiple decks reporting ghost signatures. A security officer announced. Sensors indicate movement in impossible spaces. Stone activated a small device he planted earlier. Across the ship, maintenance hatches began cycling open and closed at random intervals. The sound of metal grinding against metal echoed through every deck. Find them, the commander ordered. Turn this ship inside out if you have to. But how do you find someone who's made a career of being invisible? Stone had trained to evade the world's best counter-terrorism units. Avoiding alien patrols in their own ship was just another exercise in patience and timing. His tablet displayed new sensor data. The aliens were redirecting power to internal security, leaving their external defenses weakened. Exactly as planned. Across the globe, other special forces teams would be exploiting similar vulnerabilities. Sir, a terrified voice reported, we're detecting unauthorized access to ship systems. But there's no source. It's like the ship itself is turning against us. Stone triggered his next surprise, a cascading series of system reboots that sent alien crew members scrambling. Their perfect technology was becoming their perfect prison. every malfunction reinforcing their growing paranoia. How? The commander demanded. How are primitives doing this? Stone keyed a message into his tablet, routing it through their own communications. You forgot the first rule of warfare. Know your enemy. We're not primitives. We're survivors. And we've been surviving a lot longer than you've been conquering. The ship's corridors erupted in chaos as the message played on every screen and speaker. Stone used the confusion to move higher into the vessel, toward the command center. Each deck told the same story. The galaxy's most advanced warriors, undone by their reliance on technology they no longer fully controlled. Sir, another voice cut through the chaos. Other ships are reporting similar infiltrations. It's happening everywhere. Stone checked his equipment one final time. The real lesson was about to begin. These aliens were about to learn why Earth's special forces were truly special, not because of our weapons or our strength, but because we'd spent millennia learning to turn enemy strengths into weaknesses. The hunt wasn't over. It was just moving to the next level. The alien High Command's transmission cut through all frequencies. This is impossible. Our ships report infiltration across all continents. Our technology is failing. Our troops are afraid. Stone watched from his position in the command ship's neural core as the alien leadership faced their worst nightmare. Not defeat by superior force, but the complete unraveling of their military doctrine. His tablet showed similar scenes playing out worldwide. Korean UDT/SEALs turning alien warships into floating ghost stories, Australian SAS making desert bases disappear into thin air, British SBS teams transforming coastside installations into technological haunted houses. Sir, an alien analyst reported, voice trembling, we've compiled the data. The humans, they're not fighting our strengths. They're making our strengths fight themselves. Stone allowed himself a grim smile as he prepared his masterpiece. For weeks, he'd studied their computer architecture, noting how it mirrored their military thinking. Advanced but inflexible, powerful but predictable. Now he would use that predictability against them. The primitive is here, an alien officer suddenly shouted. Security sensors detect. Everywhere. He's everywhere. Of course they did. Stone had spent hours planting sensor ghosts throughout their system. Every scanner would show human signatures appearing and disappearing at random, making it impossible to distinguish real threats from phantom ones. Their own technology was becoming their worst enemy. Shut it down, the alien commander ordered. Shut everything down. But they couldn't. Stone had made sure of that. Their systems were locked in an endless loop of false positives and ghost readings. Every attempt to restart only created new phantom signals. His tablet chirped, a message from SEAL Team 6. Targets worldwide implementing same shutdown protocols. Operation Ghost Story is go. Stone keyed his prepared broadcast into their communications network. You've forgotten something crucial about warfare. Technology can fail. Training never does. The message played simultaneously across every alien vessel and base on Earth, transmitted through their own systems. But it wasn't just words. With it came data packets showing every successful infiltration, every defeated patrol, every moment their superior technology had failed against human ingenuity. High Command, a panicked voice reported. The humans, they're not just fighting us. They're teaching others to fight us. Every defeat, every tactic. They're sharing everything. Stone's tablets showed the cascade effect as alien forces worldwide began to crumble, not from weapons or violence, but from the realization that their technological superiority had become their greatest vulnerability. How? The alien commander demanded. How can primitives who barely understand space travel defeat the galaxy's greatest military power? Stone's response was to trigger his final program. Across the ship, every screen displayed the same message. Because you fight with technology. We fight with experience. The alien leadership watched in horror as their tactical displays showed human special forces signatures appearing simultaneously in impossible places. Their sensors, designed to detect advanced weapons and energy signatures, were useless against operators who had mastered the art of becoming invisible to far more sophisticated human technology. "Sir," another voice cut through the chaos. "Other species. They're watching. They're learning. The humans are teaching the galaxy how to fight us." That was the true victory. Stone and Earth's other special forces operators hadn't just defended their planet. They'd exposed the fundamental flaw in the aliens' military doctrine. Their reliance on technology had made them forget the basics of warfare. "This is High Command." The alien leader's voice had lost its certainty. All forces stand down. The humans, they've done the impossible. They've turned our greatest strength into our greatest weakness." Stone began his extraction, moving through maintenance ducts with practiced ease. His tablet displayed congratulatory messages from Special Forces teams worldwide, but the real victory wasn't in their success. It was in what they'd taught the galaxy. "The primitive warrior who haunts our ships," the alien commander spoke quietly. "He never needed to defeat us. He just needed to show us what we've forgotten. That true strength isn't in the weapons you carry." Stone completed the thought as he disappeared into the Scottish night. It's in the warrior who carries them. The galaxy's greatest military power had learned its lesson. The question now was, what would they do with it? The alien diplomats shifted uncomfortably in their crystalline armor as they approached the negotiation site, a simple tent in the Scottish Highlands. No advanced technology, no security screens, just canvas walls and the morning mist. Stone watched from his position on Overwatch, more out of habit than necessity. "This is primitive," one diplomat said, their translator struggling to hide the unease in their voice. "That's rather the point," General Richards replied, her smile carrying the weight of Earth's recent victory. "Sergeant Major Stone taught us all something about the value of primitive." Stone allowed himself a small grin. 3 weeks had passed since the aliens' military collapse, and the galaxy was still reeling from the implications, not just from humanity's victory, but from how it had been achieved. His tablet displayed messages from Special Forces units worldwide, each reporting alien vessels now maintaining careful distances, their crews eyeing Earth's waters, deserts, and mountains with newfound respect. The galaxy's greatest military power had learned to fear shadows. "We offer Earth membership in the Galactic Concordat," the lead diplomat announced, placing a crystalline tablet on the wooden table. "Not as subjects, but as equals. Your methods have proven invaluable." Stone's earpiece crackled with encrypted chatter from other Special Forces teams maintaining Overwatch worldwide. Korean UDT/SEALs lurking beneath alien ships, Australian SAS ghosting through the outback, British SBS teams melting into coastal shadows. Old habits died hard. "Equal membership," General Richards mused, "and in return, training," the diplomat replied, the word carrying equal parts shame and admiration. "Your warriors have demonstrated capabilities we thought impossible. The Concordat requires adaptation." Stone's tablet displayed the latest intelligence. Across the galaxy, other species were already implementing human tactics. Primitive was becoming a complement. The inability to be detected by advanced technology was becoming more valuable than the technology itself. "Sergeant Major Stone," General Richards called out, "would you join us?" Stone emerged from his hidden position, moving with the deliberate grace that had terrified the galaxy's finest warriors. The aliens actually flinched, as he approached. Their armor sensors probably showed nothing, which only unsettled them more. "The ghost warrior himself," the lead diplomat said, mandibles clicking with nervous energy. "Your tactics have changed everything. Worlds that were considering rebellion now simply vanish when our ships approach, reappear when we leave. No battles, no victories, just endless frustration. You taught us well," Stone replied, his Yorkshire accent carrying the weight of experience. "About your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. Seems only fair we return the favor." The aliens' discomfort was palpable. They had come expecting to find primitive warriors ready to be subjugated. Instead, they'd found teachers who had turned their technological superiority into a galactic lesson in humility. The treaty includes unusual additions. General Richards continued, eyes scanning the document. Exclusive rights to Special Forces training, mandatory exchanges of tactical doctrine, and a formal apology for underestimating Earth's military capabilities. The galaxy is changing, the diplomat admitted. Thanks to you, warfare will never be the same. Better to have humans as allies than alternatives. Stone's tablet showed final confirmations from Special Forces teams worldwide. The alien ships were maintaining their respectful distances. Their crews were following new protocols that emphasized basic security over technological superiority. They were learning. "We accept," General Richards announced, signing the treaty. "Welcome to Earth's first lesson in human warfare." The aliens visibly relaxed, probably expecting the tension to end with the signing. Stone knew better. The galaxy was about to learn that human training never really ended. It just evolved into new challenges. "Sergeant Major Stone," the lead diplomat ventured, "will you oversee the initial training protocols?" Stone's smile carried centuries of military tradition. "First lessons already begun. You lot still haven't spotted my teams." The aliens' heads snapped around, sensors frantically scanning the empty hills. Stone's tablet showed green confirmations from hidden positions, SAS, SBS, and foreign Special Forces operators maintaining their watch, invisible to the galaxy's finest technology. The galaxy's greatest military power had learned its lesson. Now they would learn countless more. Because while technology could be copied or countered, experience had to be earned. And Earth's warriors had plenty to teach.